Well, a very good afternoon and a warm welcome to Patkuma Funny Conversations. As you know, that Saturday afternoons at 2 p.m., it's time for Faith Heroes. And here we are, this very first Saturday of March. Chini unyaka uphelile. Teachers would always say that unyaka uphelile, because here we are now, this beautiful, beautiful day, but it is the first one in the month of March. Last week we gathered here and we were talking about Nehemiah, and we concluded with this great, exciting panel. We concluded that we have to come back and do justice to it and do part two of this great leadership story. Okay, leadership story. There aren't many stories of leadership in the Bible. Perhaps you can pick it up with Moses. Maybe you may pick it up with Abraham. Maybe you'll pick it up, I think, no other great leader other than Jesus himself in the Bible. But there's a hidden leader in the Bible whose name is Nehemiah. We started last week with Nehemiah. We gave you everything you needed to know, and just to remind you about the background, to slavery in Babylon and all of that and everything that was happening in Jerusalem, and the mighty young man that God appointed to restore his dignity, which was at stake, with the children of Israel. Khumbula ngenye imini uMoses esithi ngenxa yegama lakho. Zikhona izinto uThixo ekufuneka ezenzile ebomini bethu for his name's sake. Zikhona izinto esizicela kuThixo. Ewe sizicele just ngenxa yegama lakhe. Sithi Thixo sicela usenzele lento ngenxa yegama lakho. And the kind of leadership, therefore, that Nehemiah provides, it is a broad leadership. Today we're going to extract, because we know the story about the walls. We know the story about the plight of the walls. We know the story about Nehemiah leading in the rebuilding of the walls. But today we're going to extract the type or types of leadership that we find with this great man, okay? Because after his arrival in Jerusalem, Nehemiah first assessed the situation for himself by looking it over. And so he does an assessment, okay? Now, check that out from a leadership point of view. So he does an assessment of the problem. And because of his thorough preparation, he was able to speak of the condition of the city with an accuracy and a minuteness that astonished his hearers. I-leader xa yenze i-homework enjalo, nababukeli bayo neentshaba zayo ziye zimangale ngendlela le leader ethetha ngayo of the kind of preparation that he did. He also communicated with the people about the gracious hand of God kule project, and God upon him, and what the king had said to him. I want to welcome, on that note, our panel. All right. Apologies from Pastor Mbui Kamela, who had traveling issues today, but I've got the entire panel. My two bishops are here right away. Pastor Mapumulo, Jabuga Mapumulo, Mashimani. He is here, the producer of the show, who develops the script. Ngwenya, let me welcome you again, Nehemiah Part 2.
Yeah. Well, good afternoon, Ngwenya. Good afternoon to our listeners, to our viewers. It's always great to be here. As soon as we close, I always look forward to the next Sabbath afternoon.
Ucho kunyana ka Mampele. Kunyana ka Mampele ke lo. UBishop Mbete libhele lihle. Anqabile amabhele abamahle ngolhlobo siwabona ngalo. Masivule angene umalume wakho Ngwenya. Bhele lihle mkhozi wami, it's good to have you.
Mandulise, good to have you too. Bulele apho kumthana une jeans ezi-right zasemabheleni. It's a pleasure. I love the new approach in this program, because the Bible is an ancient book. Through the way you are handling it with your panelist, you make it relevant for today. So I'm looking forward to finding ways of learning leadership skills and characters from Nehemiah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mkhozwam. Thank you, Belelihle. Let me welcome Uhlati. He is on standby, and he's on standby, and this is Bishop Joshua Maponga. Hlati, siyakwamkela. Une-curtains ezinhle kule ndawo ukuyo. Uyacatshulwa kwindawo eziphezulu. We want to welcome you, Hlati. It's great to have you. If you can just unmute and greet our viewers this afternoon. Okay, you need to unmute it on your side, Hlati. That's fine. Okay, as we get that in order, I think let me further, as part of welcoming the panelists, highlight a few things that we discovered with Umfundisi Maphumulo as we were developing the script. And the fact that Nehemiah was a communicating leader, and the panelists will help us to refer to the story and highlight the importance of communication, and that he was a visionary also. And we will demonstrate that. And the panelists will then highlight the importance, applications-wise. We'll be running with a lot of applications today. We'll be running with a lot of applications. And the fact that Nehemiah, we also concluded that he was a leader of prayer. How important that is, and we'll run with the applications, Zalondo. And the fact that he was a self-sacrificing leader. Okay, so the panel will run with that, and if needs be, they will show you in which verse, which chapter, where we discover that he was a self-sacrificing leader. But equally so, that he was a bold leader. Okay, so we'll bring that up. So we will take it with those segments today. Self-sacrificing leader, but a bold leader. We will deal with his boldness and maybe demonstrate the difference between boldness and arrogance. Yes. And the panel will help us with that. And the fact that Nehemiah was a delegating leader. He was a delegating leader. He was an open-minded leader. So we will take those segments, and hopefully then we will conclude then our story on Nehemiah. As I said in my opening, that we see different kinds of leaders in the Bible. But this leader, the more I read about Nehemiah, is the more I got to know that leadership in Kulu, in Zulu, and we all should pray to be leaders like Nehemiah. So if you are a leader and you're tuning in this afternoon, you are an elder, you are a pastor, you are a reverend, you are a bishop somewhere, you're a priest, welcome. If you are a deacon, welcome. Maybe you're an archdeacon, welcome. There are great things to learn from a leadership point of view today on the show. Okay, let's start first with a communicating leader. And I'm going to open this to my panel. Mhlambi Mashimane, when I'm Chana Wasemabeleni, Mfundisi Maphumulo, how do we qualify that he was a communicating leader?
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mwanya. Look, maybe let me start by defining what a leader is briefly, by saying that leadership is how you as an individual choose to lead your life. Let's start from there, because that's where all of us are at first. Before you have a position, or that's leadership. Is the choice that you make as to how you are going to lead yourself. Now, but then the other side of leadership, if then you are in a position, organizationally speaking, now you are a leader at that level, So therefore, leadership at that level will be a set of skills and a certain psychology that comes with it, which you need to master. And this is important for me. All right, let me repeat that one. Organizationally speaking, a leadership would be a set of skills that you need to be a good leader or to achieve what your organization wants you to achieve. But is also that comes with a certain psychology. Now, both of these things you need to master, whether you are in a church setting or in a public organization or private organization. So those two things are universal in nature. Now we are talking now about Nehemiah. That one of the critical aspect Nehemiah had that made him an outstanding leader, of course, is the fact that he was a communicating leader. Now, you cannot communicate what you don't know, and therefore that's what is important here when you look at the story of Nehemiah. So what does Nehemiah do? He arrives and he assesses the problem, the nature of the problem. Did he know there was a problem? Yes. Nehemiah chapter 1, I think around the first 10 verses there, when Nehemiah tells the king that I am at this level, I'm feeling this way simply because my people back in Jerusalem are under siege. For what reason? Because the walls are down, the gates are burned. So in other words, Nehemiah now comes to Jerusalem clear that this is the problem, but he has a general problem. But now he needs to get on the ground and then assess the specifics of the problem, because that's what will inform the solution to the problem. So when Nehemiah then puts together a strategy to deal the problem, that strategy is informed by what he has seen and experienced himself firsthand. He's not talking about general things. He's not talking about what he heard. He's not talking about what he thinks may be happening, but he's talking about what he knows exactly. And so on that basis, then Nehemiah comes up with a plan, and this is the plan now he communicates. And so therefore, as a leader, this is key, that with your people, you need to talk about, you need to lead, you need to influence, you need to inspire your people on the basis of what you know, 1, 2, and on the basis of where you want to go with your people. Now, one of the characteristics of a dictator is that a dictator has no analysis of the problem. And a dictator does not even communicate why they must go where he wants to go with his people. He just tells them because that's what he thinks. But what if what you think is actually not the best? But this is what sets Nehemiah apart amongst other things. And therefore, the principle here for us as people at whatever level is that when there is that, for example, we are always tempted to make a conclusion without facts. And that's a problem we must always try to avoid, generally, to make for. Oh, he's doing this. I thought as much. What else can you expect? You know, that's not a good leader. So a good leader knows what he's talking about, and he sets a plan together with his people, and they understand. Once they understand, then they will have what we call it a buy-in. When you have a buy-in, you have no choice but to achieve what you want to achieve. Thank you.
Wow. Brother. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mashimane. I want to bring in Bishop Mbete here. He also is a great communicator, by the way, and I am in the presence of greatness today when it comes to communication. Pastor Maponga is a great communicator. Bishop Mbete is a great communicator, and Bishop Maponga is a great communicator. How critical, Nkosi, is the points that Pastor Mapumulo was bringing out, assessment, consulting, and having a clear communication plan when you are a leader. And I like the fact that Pastor Mapumulo also makes reference to it doesn't matter what organization you're leading. You could be leading a church or churches. At the end of the day, communication will solve half of your problems. Do come in here, Nkozwam.
Thank you very much. And I think Pastor Mapumulo has laid the ground pretty well. You cannot communicate what you don't know, but also you cannot communicate if you are not confident of who you are.
Yeah.
Oh.
Dictators cannot communicate because under their skin, under their threats, they are afraid of unknown, invisible enemies. But when you come to a task that you have been assigned, and you know that it is not for your own gain, then you are able to communicate because you are not looking at any game that is selfish. It is also important to note in the lesson from Nehemiah, and I can support it from some other leaders in the Bible. Nehemiah was a great leader in this project of rebuilding the walls because he was first prepared by God in exile. Bear in mind, he was the leader of those who were serving the king at Shushan. When the Bible says he was the taster of the wine or whatever that was going to be eaten by the king, that means that he was leading other people, including those who were cooking and preparing what was going to be given to the king. God cannot use effectively a person who claims that he or she wants to lead a nation or a church if that person has not proved elsewhere that he can lead. Moses was able to lead and communicate effectively because he was first led to the field to shepherd the flock of Christ. So Nehemiah was a great communicator because he knew his position and experience of leading a team, even if it's a small team. Show us where your leadership skills were formed. He became that leader. It's also very important to get the fact, Mkosi, now in China, that this, we're not talking about the smaller Yana boy here. He left a lucrative job. He was close to power.
Yeah.
Like Moses, there came a moment when he chose to expose himself to rejection and poverty because he felt the call. He left that position voluntarily. A kind of leader who is going to be effective and who is going to do God's will is a kind of person who sacrifices for God. He was able, therefore, to communicate. And my last point is that because he was able to communicate, he led a successful team
Yeah.
and finish the work in 52 days, according to scripture. Because a dictator who is not sure of his or her position, who wants to look at tenders and gains, cannot be calm in the spirit. And when you are not comfortable and calm in the spirit and assured of God's will, you cannot communicate your vision. And a vision is not a vision until it is communicated. There are many people who are holding on to what they call a vision. But if they die tomorrow, nobody would even know where we were going to. Because unless and until a vision is communicated and caught, it is not a vision. This is why we are saying today, here was a great communicator. And either spiritual leadership or national leadership, business leadership, taxi leadership, school leadership, learn from this great leader.
Wow. Wow. I'm in case you've just joined us, welcome to Faith Heroes. Pastor Mapumulo and Bishop Mbete, a bona fide Methodist, analyzing this kind of leadership, the type of leadership Nehemiah was. And just before we move to the next segment, if I could just offer my panelists each a minute to bring me applications of this head of an organization or an institution called family. This communicating leader, how critical is and what kind of dangers can we see an institution called family falling into if that leader, utata, is a poor communicator? So just talk to me on that, Mfundisi Maphumulo.
Yes, thanks, Gwenya. Look, well, firstly, one of the key principles of communication is clarity. Now, so in other words, there must be clarity in terms of thought and expression. That is, as a leader, as a head of the family, do you understand your role as God designed it, not as tradition, as God designed it? That clarity is key there. Because once you have that clarity of the role that God has placed you in, it makes it easier for you, therefore, to be concise in as to where the direction of this family is headed to. And it also helps you from being a dictator type of a leader, or to be what do I call it? Someone who is threatened by somebody else. You know, there are leaders who can be threatened by their own wives. You know, they are not confident about who they are what they are supposed to do. So for me, clarity is key, as God designed it, and therefore when you have understood that, then lastly, which is something you learn from Nehemiah, is that when you understand your role, that it is God designed, then you don't have to worry about what people think, or you worry about those that are in the grandstand. You just do what you are supposed to do, complete your task, and leave the rest with the Lord. And so the problem with people who don't understand their role as family leaders, as God designed it, they will always listen. They will always be dictated to by the social mirror. You know, they go and listen to other men, and then reflect that social understanding of them as a leader in their home, and they fall flat because what they're communicating is not what God expects of them. And then they wonder why there is confusion or there's no direction at home. Simply, and sometimes we wanted to blame our spouses, want to blame our children, and so on. And the problem could be just simple, is that you are not concise about where do you want us to go. So, as a head of the family, understand what God expects of you, and then simply focus exactly on what God is expecting of you. Thank you.
Well, 26 minutes past 2 now, and I did risk by getting both of them as marriage counselors, risk this kind of application. But I know that Bishop Mbete Uyachiseka now is a marriage counselor. But perhaps in just a few seconds, this communicating leader at home with family.
Yes. I always tell husbands when I do counseling pre-marital and when I address the couple at a wedding ceremony, that I take that a husband is like a goalkeeper in the soccer match. Goalkeepers are usually people who would save hands. And great goalkeepers are good communicators.
Yes.
If free kick or something that is coming, the team depends on the goalkeeper to give instructions, to say the wall must move to the left or a little bit on this side. So, and a goalkeeper has a line. He does not go and wander up and down when the match is exciting. a husband at home, as Pastor Mapumulo has said, is ordained by God, but also you are settled by knowing the values of the family.
Yes.
Therefore, if you talk about them, communicate them, but also live them out.
Yeah.
From your spouse to your children will look at you. And before you know, you will know that you are a leader at home. And a goalkeeper, usually, I love a goalkeeper who shouts and says, "My ball," meaning don't interfere. I'm taking charge. Not arrogantly, but in the spirit of teamwork. So under the leadership that we descend from God, we have poor families now simply because men do not fully understand their own position.
Wow.
Goalkeepers are all over.
That's important. one day we will need to delve a little bit deeper into that. But let's quickly move to the next segment. It is almost 2:30. The next segment is that in the research and study, we also discovered that he was a visionary leader. I know that in the introductions, this came a little bit, and I wouldn't love us to exhaust much time on it. There are other segments where we will spend a little bit of time. If I could tie that with the fact that he was a self-sacrificing leader. Please help me here, members of the panel, to tie the two, and then we can also work around how it can help me and somebody that is watching this afternoon. When?
Yeah, sure. Look, maybe let's start with the vision one. What made Nehemiah to win? One of the things that made him to be an outstanding leader is the fact that he focused on God-given vision, not on his own vision. And this is very important. because, for example, when we become a family leaders, as an example, or family members, when we become when we are placed in positions of influence, whether it's a church or in a private organization, we tend then to sometimes to focus on ourselves and focus on the accolades that come with being placed where you are placed, and forget the vision of the organization and forget the vision of God in a family setting. And this is very important. And the question is, when you get married, for example, as a wife, as a husband, the question is, what is God's vision for the family? That's an
Okay.
that's important, because as a family you must have a vision of where you're going, but that vision of yours must be informed by the overarching vision of God about family. All right, so that's important. So Nehemiah, when he left Shushan to Jerusalem, he had God-given vision of what needed to happen when he gets there. He did not get there and be sidetracked by other things of like it happens in our life today. You place a person in a position of influence, then he gets there, then he begins to look at what he can benefit over what the organization is supposed to benefit through his leadership. And so that was very, very good with Nehemiah, a self-sacrificing leader, because Nehemiah did not look at personal benefit. If anything, for Nehemiah to leave Shushan to go to Jerusalem, it was a loss for him personally. Because look, who is going to just leave such an influential position of being an advisor to a president and go help to build broken walls? No, not in this day and time. So for him, that is a good example of a sacrificing leader. In other words, this is a leader, this is a father, this is a husband that says, what is it that I can do to benefit my family first, not myself first? What can I do that can benefit my church first, not myself? What can I do to benefit my community? Because as God's people, we are created, amongst other things, to be of impact in our communities. Because what good is the church that cannot impact its own community? That church has no reason to be in existence. So these are the things. So self-sacrificing attitude says, what do I do to make sure that the person next to me benefits for who I am or from what I have? Because when we all do that, I can guarantee you, Ngwenya, there will be no poverty in this life. No poverty, whatever. That's the attitude that all of us are looking for. And so therefore, all of our people who are viewing us today, here's the question for you, and that you must ask every day when you wake up. It says, Lord, what is it that I can do today that can make me to be a blessing or of impact to other people? Thank you.
I like that. I'd love to bring Bishop Mbete here, self-sacrificing leader. Bishop Mbete, and closer home, how important this is, not only for men, but for everybody, not only just for the particular gender, just for all of us, particularly leaders. Today we have female leaders and we have male leaders. Self-sacrificing leader.
Yeah. I think for a minute, I just want to add that a vision is the function of the heart. Sight is the function of the eyes, but a vision is the function of the heart.
Yeah.
So while the eyes saw brokenness, the heart, the vision inside, saw a restored Jerusalem.
For sure.
A restored Jerusalem, like an architect, is first completed in your mind and heart and spirit before you lay the bricks. So Nehemiah, because he had a vision, he therefore could not be stopped by enemies or dragged aside, because once you have a vision, the vision narrows and clears the path as long as you are faithful to the assignment.
Yes.
The late Mundru once said, lions do not normally attack elephants because they know that they can be killed. But when a hungry lion who has been running around for 2 weeks sees an elephant, the first thing that the lion does, it narrows the lion into lunch in time. Normally they don't tackle elephants, but
Yes.
when they first create a vision and says, it's the same elephant, but thanks be to God, here's my lunch. Vision narrows a problem or a challenge.
Yes. Yes.
What Nehemiah did. Then the same lion then goes back and calls for backup. If you look at on these television things, and more lions come, and then you can see that terrible thing where they jump even on top of the elephant, and finally the assignment is completed. So Nehemiah was a visionary, inspired from within, and this is the frightening part about where we are at as a country at the present moment. When I'm cozy, we were at Winnie Mandela's home, we were at O.R. Tambo's home last few days. If you look at that era of leadership, they saw apartheid big as an elephant, but because they had a vision beyond it, they narrowed it into something that is workable. Self-sacrifice, I think Umchana, pastor, has put it well. He sacrificed, Nehemiah sacrificed the privileges and the packages of being close to kingdom for the sake of the vision. It is therefore very important that for myself, I create a vision for tomorrow, for my family, for my community. And the fact that he had a vision, Nehemiah, before he left Jerusalem, Babylon, he knew what he had to ask for. He asked for example, for a letter that is going that will make things easy for him to get trees, kwintaba zaseLebanon, and cross borders. He had the end of the project before it ended. And then he went around, and then look at his question. He says, when he called him Bizo, can you see what I've just seen? Niyabubona na ububi esikubo. Then he said, Yizani, come, let us build. That's a vision. and a leader who understands sacrificial leadership, even sacrificing your ego. You will see later in the book that at a certain point he moved back and allowed a guy called Ezra, who was an expert in the law. So a visionary leader does not claim to know everything. Pastor Mbete will only grow when he knows that Mbete knows this part. I must invite him. And I must know when I can invite him. That is leadership, where you know that you are not everything, but you can draw and respect other gifts that God has given to others.
Thank you, Nkosi. Thank you. I'm going to move, just for the sake of those that have just joined us, I'm going to move to two segments. And I want to ask, because when we read the book of Nehemiah, we also discover that he was a bold leader. Yes, he was a delegating leader, but he was a bold leader. What is the difference, and where do we see serious risk when leaders do not understand the difference between being bold and being arrogant? Where do we place and what do we see in Nehemiah to qualify him as a bold but not arrogant leader?
Yeah, look, when you look at the story of Nehemiah in the light of the vision that he had, Nehemiah did everything that was supposed to be done by a wise leader, and he sold his vision to his people. But Nehemiah understood one thing that many people do not understand, and I want to refer this particularly to individuals today, and that is, life is full of distractions. Stay with me on this one. That you may have a grandest of plans to achieve whatever great thing that you have in mind. But here is the thing, though. What are you going to do when distractions come? But more importantly, some distractions don't appear to be distractions. And as a visionary, you ought to be able to see when this good sounding, looking thing comes your way, it's actually going to be a distraction for you. Let me give you an example here. One of the best way to achieve a project is to cut it in small portions and have what is called milestones. Now, so you have your milestones on a weekly basis or monthly basis, and you know that if I'm meeting my milestones, I will be able to meet my goal 6 months or a year down the line, however long your goal may be. But if I'm not meeting my milestones, there is no way I'm going to achieve my goal. So therefore, if my milestone is weekly, and something comes, and today this I have planned that today I'm going to do these 3 things, but I just feel like today, you know what? I wanted to have lost weight in 6 months down the line, 3 months down the line. But you know what? No, today or this week, because it's a long holiday, it's a long weekend, I can indulge, but I'll catch up at a later stage. Now people are here, they want to what you call to have a good time with you. So you make up your mind, you want to indulge. Now, right there, those people who are coming to have good time with you and do something that is not going to help you to achieve your milestone of losing a kilogram per week. Now, that is a distraction for you, even though it looks good and exciting. Are you with me? So as a leader, you as a person, also as an individual, whatever goal you have, the question is, do you understand? You must internalize the fact that there will be distraction. And the question is, how I'm going to deal with distraction? Well, I'm going to stick with the plan that I have so that I can push away my distractions as and when they come. So what do you call that? You call that focus. You must be you must lead a focused living as a person for you to be able to get to where you want to get to. I mean, you can look at some people maybe that you went to school with, some people that you have lived with, and realize that, man, when I was at school, I was smarter than these people. But look where they are today. Sometimes you look at a person who says, hey, this one was always at the back when the test scores were announced by the teacher. But this person is far ahead of me. And you wonder how some of these people were able to achieve the things that I've achieved. But the thing is, and it's simply, there's no genius in it, is that the vision was there. And then between where the person was and where the vision was, there was an intense focus to say, come what may, I am not going to sleep longer today simply because it's winter. I have committed to wake up at 5, so I'm going to get up at 5 and write 5 pages of this book that I'm trying to write, or whatever that project it may be.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay, so in that case, I'm saying it's important as a person, as a leader, to be very bold in what you need to do, to be courageous. Now, with Nehemiah, his distraction was Sanballat and Tobiah. That was his distraction. Now, but you know what? The message says, can we have a meeting? Now, that sounds good. Now, it's just a meeting so that we can discuss. When Nehemiah, you have just arrived here, Sanballat and Tobiah, you are here in the community. Let's have a chat. But Nehemiah says, look, I'm busy building the wall. I can come. In other words, there's time for everything. That's Solomon's wisdom. There's time for everything. We can talk or we can meet at some other time. But for now, I'm focused on my task at hand.
Wow, and I'm very happy that you landed there, because that calls for a bold leader. A bold leader is the leader that is able to say no.
Yes.
No, I'm focused on this, because there will be distractions and disruptions and all of that. The difference, Mkosi, between a bold leader and an arrogant leader.
Yeah. I think boldness and courage do not mean that you are not sometimes afraid.
Okay.
But it is the conquering of that spirit that makes you. So, courage and boldness is not the absence of fear in you, but it is the ability to conquer what is threatening you. And as Pastor Mapumulo says, to divide time, to say, I can come to you, because you know that you cannot please everybody all the time. Arrogance usually springs from emptiness. A leader who finds himself or herself in a position will usually become arrogant, because he or she knows that this chair that I'm sitting on, I do not deserve it. A few years ago, one of the Mbete boys said to me, you know, Tatomning, when people prevent you from taking what you can do, and they put somebody because of their own interest, umuntu uyahlala esitulweni, but sishiyeke isitulo sikhaya la sisithi ho sine-echo because lo muntu uhleli apha noba kuzawufakwa imiqamelo isitulo siyakhala ngoba ayiso sakhe. So arrogance it is an indicator of someone who is not confident, someone who is not afraid. But the arrogance of boldness displays as somebody who knows what to do and what time frames he or she would want to utilize. Boldness, courage come with vision. And indeed, in chapter 2, verses 19 and 20, Pastor Maponga said, when those guys, Sanballat and Tobias, wanted a meeting, he was bold to say, we have been sent by God. You have no part in this. That is boldness, because they were like powerful enemies. It is also, somebody wrote and said to me on the side, where is this 52 days? And I said, chapter 6, verse 15, the wall was built in 52 days. Because that's when correct. You have a bold leader, a courageous leader, you move faster. Yes. And when you have a team, you run faster with the task. That is what it is to be bold.
Wow. Thank you so much. There you are. The more you move as a team, you go further as a team. When you move alone, you may go faster, but when you move as a team, you go further. And that's amazing. And dealing with the story of Nehemiah today, what a great leader that we're learning from the faith heroes. And I just want to move to another segment. It may be the last segment. The time is 7 minutes to the hour of 3 o'clock. Nehemiah, an open-minded leader. How accommodative was he, particularly in the light of the distractions that were mentioned during the program? Where do we see this open-mindedness? What is it that we can learn also as leaders? One, leaders in our homes, leaders in organizations, managers in the corporate world, and leaders at church, etc., in sporting organizations. Open-mindedness. Francis Maponga, please talk to me on this one. Nehemiah as an open-minded leader.
Well, we live in a world that is technologically advancing day by day. What we did yesterday may have been good, but tomorrow there could be a new technology that helps you to do, that enables you to do what you did yesterday better and faster. So open-mindedness as a leader calls for one, innovation, two, creativity. In other words, as a leader, you're going in as a person also, you're going into this project, you're going into this plan, open-minded enough to understand that, look, the plan may have a hiccup at certain point. What do I do then? I'll give an example. When you are building a road, All right. So the architects will come and they draw their plans and everything is done. And you start building the road. And then you realize you get to a certain place and there's the biggest of rocks. You can't do anything. You can't go around. You can't go because of the rock. So open-minded leadership does not say, well, the plan said we must go here. So we are stuck now. It's over with this. So open-minded leadership says, in the light of what is happening that we did not factor in our plan, what can we do to make sure that we still achieve our objective? You know, so people by nature, by design, by creation, are not static. They change all the time. People are dynamic. So it may have worked a few years ago to lead people in a particular way, but it may not necessarily work to do the same today. So an open-minded.
I wanted to come in there, right there from Sumapumulo. I wanted to come in there, and I think Bishop Mbete can assist me as well. The risk umngcipheko esingangena kuwo by not knowing where to draw the line between by open-minded leader nokuba libhetyebhetye okanye iwequ le leader elivuma yonke into le kufika lo liyasayina kufika lo, you know, where should we draw the line, and what dangers, Bishop Mbete, can we find ourselves in if we did not draw the line, you know, in a wise way between being an open-minded leader and a leader edonswa ngapha nangapha?
An open-minded leader is a leader who knows where to end and therefore becomes open at any innovation that may come and help achieve that goal.
Yes.
Nehemiah, open-minded, and in other words, he was a leader who could think on his feet.
Yes.
When people to him and said, the enemies are attacking us. Now he was open-minded to that threat, but then he said, take a sword on the one hand and put a brick with the other one. That's innovation. That's open-mindedness. He had an ear to listen and take into his heart what was said by others. But all those things he was able to put into the main plan. That is what we call by open-mindedness. Iweku is a person who does not know where she or he is leading himself or leading us. Otherwise, the word open-mindedness can only be used if there is a plan and a vision.
Correct. Because if you look at when Tobias and Sanballat came into the picture to delay the whole thing, Nehemiah, because of open-minded leadership, decides therefore to say, look, let's divide the men. Others must go and guard the wall whilst others are building. Now, that was not part of the plan in the beginning, but because circumstances on the ground began to change, so Nehemiah was able to adjust his plan, his game plan, but with the vision, as the bishop says, in mind, and yet he was able in 52 days to achieve the goal that he had. Somebody else could have said, hey, let me go and listen to what they are saying, and so on. So but he says, I'd rather divide you, go and guard them, the enemies, whilst others are continuing to build, because the vision was to put up the walls, and that vision was carried in record time.
Wow. It is exactly 3 o'clock now. And time really flies. Time really flies. And wow, this segments, I just could not believe that here we are molding an all-rounded ideal kind of a leader from a Bible faith character by the name of Nehemiah. And all the segments and the points that have been made on the show, that he was a communicating leader. He communicated vertically and communicated horizontally. That he was a visionary leader, and he was a leader of prayer, of course, a self-sacrificing leader, a bold leader, but not arrogant, a delegating leader, and an open-minded leader. But maybe I will take, okay, fair enough. I needed to apologize on behalf of Bishop Maponga as well, whose connection is costing him where he is. But maybe let me go back to the panel and sort of for today, offer each one of you a minute or so, to sort of round off, of course, with applications, with the cultural organizations around us, the government around us, the church around us, the political organizations around us, what we really need to learn from Nehemiah in one word. In one word. There's something, and God cannot agree that we have this book of Nehemiah and we don't learn from it and we don't become better leaders. In your closing statements, Pastor Mapumulo, what is it indeed that we need to take as a legacy from a leader like Nehemiah?
Some time ago, I read a book by Simon Sinek. It's entitled "Find Your Why." And after reading this book, my takeaway was, which I want to apply here today, and that is, see, he submits that the reason why organizations fail and why people fail, it's because they don't know their why. In other words, their reason for their existence. And therefore, because you don't know your why, you have no choice but find yourself wandering along life, trying this, trying that, trying this, trying that. And therefore, I want to say that to all of us who are listening or with us today, that a vision can be described as a picture of a preferred future. Let me repeat myself there. A vision can be described as a picture of a preferred future. Now, what kind of future do you want to see in your life, in an organizational life? And then once you find that picture, start working for that picture solely. Now, the Japanese have a word that is called ikigai, I-K-I-G-A-I. Now, what is ikigai in English? Ikigai means reason for being. In other words, what is your reason for living? What is it that you are willing to die for you to be able to achieve? So my submission is that Nehemiah was able to break the records simply because his ikigai was clear. And therefore, for us also as individuals and organizations to succeed, we must be clear about our ikigais, the reasons for living. The clearer your ikigai is, the faster, the more bolder and courageous you will be to get where you want to go. Thank you, Wayne.
Wow. The ikigai, I've learned something there from Pastor Mapumulo. When you know and it's clear, ikigai, your reason for being, your reason for existence. And I like that. And I like that. Okay. From the people I will be reading, Nehemiah was what kind of a leader? All right. Okay. So what is it that you've learned? What kind of a leader was he? Okay. I see that many people have, they like the ikigai, clearing my ikigai. Okay, but people love this ikigai thing. Cynthia Mashiane saying ikigai, clearing my ikigai, including Tenumzi, Kasaki, Kakaza, clearing my ikigai, my purpose for living. Very, very important, without shortcuts. So says Amelia Mabua. Finding your purpose in life is important. And we naye unoksi si chinga. Okay. Andrew Bafana Kota esithi enkosi mdange ngale program siyahutha mntakwethu enkosi ngabefundiswa nabo namhlanje. God bless you and your family. Okay, finding your ikigai. Ulindi Majeke Mazibuko saying Nehemiah was a man of action. Wow, Nehemiah was a man of action. From what you heard here today, what kind of lessons do you take on Pako? Okay, and Amelia Mabua City and to listen. I've learned to listen as a leader. Right, okay, I'm going to go now to Bishop Mbete for closing statements. Zakhe, let me just take these three ones. Mkozi, as we swear in Ndonga zasemzansi, so we swear kukuthathwa kwenkokheli ezingazange zikhokele nolutsha lwasenkonzweni bafika badudula abasenkonzweni ne-graduates. Wow, okay, assessment ayenzayo leyo. Sabelo Jwaha hlanganisa Nehemiah goal oriented, ayazi goal yakhe zange iphucuke. His eye was on the ball, so says Jwaha yena. Nehemiah was led by God. Sarah Tibi, Nehemiah was led by God. Mamwelekazi Indika yena sithi, thank you so much for this program. Thank you listening to the program. Bishop Mbete, your closing statement, your summary, if there could be one or two or seven things that would make you a better leader from Nehemiah, please give us and share with us your God-inspired closing statements on the subject.
Well, one, if you can't lead yourself, don't try to lead a family, a community, or a nation.
Sure.
Don't try in that order. Because Nehemiah, I can see from what he did and how he did it, that he was not a, what do they say in English, a novice. Umkalwa. Serious leadership is not a training session. Rehearsal from positions of influence.
Fair.
When we have been given a task that is bigger than you, there's no time for rehearsals. It is time to perform. Secondly, I've learned from him and continue to be amazed to understand that when there are enemies that appear, you should know that you are doing good work.
Okay.
Enemies do not try to disrupt if we are not progressing. Enemies are threatened by your achievements. And enemies are not necessarily sent and allowed by God to destroy you. They give you more energy. I imagine that because they were threatened, the team was always together. So,
okay,
and be part of your progress. Don't seek and spend energy trying to destroy those who are opposing you. You are wasting time. I usually tell people that if there is a mosquito in the room, you don't take a hammer to try to kill a mosquito. Damage the furniture and you may injure yourself. Just switch on the light and the mosquito will be quiet. So focus on the work and don't be thrown aside by opposition. I also want to end by saying, therefore, as we have been saying, teamwork and diversity in your team helps you achieve your program quicker than you can think. And goes.
Well, thank you so much, Nkosi, and wonderful lessons. I mean, everybody that's writing to us this afternoon is determined to become a better leader from the Nehemiah lessons. I must say that it actually took me back to school. And the thing about the lessons from Nehemiah is that they make us all, as it was submitted on the program, they make us all to reflect on ourselves, because the panelists did say that if you cannot lead yourself, and I think Bishop Mbete said that if you cannot lead yourself, please stay away from thinking that you will lead a football club, you will lead a church, you will lead an organization, you will lead a company, you will lead a family. If you cannot lead yourself, that's profound. That's
Very
big.
much.
That's
Very
big,
much.
because then it ought to challenge us on how do we reflect on our own decisions. How do I lead umputumi, being umputumi, towards the right decisions, towards, the vigorance that is needed towards achieving a particular goal and following a vision? How do I lead myself? Before you raise your hand and sube sicula lapha ixesha lisondele,
Yeah.
did you first reflect on how you lead yourself? Thank you so much, Bishop Mbete, and thank you so much, Belelihle. Thank you so much, Mkoziwam, for agreeing to be part of this. In most cases, we have Seventh-day Adventist pastors, on the program. But when you agreed, it showed us that there's something bigger than the walls of denominationalism. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mkosi. Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you. Pastor Mapumulo, thank you so much, Mashimane. Thank you, Chana wa se Mabeleni, for I'll hear from you then who we're handling next week.
Yes.
And so that on time, we can develop a poster. And let me just remind the viewers, please, those of you who watch and who have access to YouTube, don't forget to search for Padma Funny Conversations and very important, and subscribe. Okay, subscribe to our channel. It grows bigger and it will be able to attract bigger things as well. Well, thank you so much. Have a lovely, blessed afternoon and a great Sabbath. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.